ﷺ, Allah said, and certainly you are of a great moral character. إِنَّكَ لَعَلَى خُلُقٍ عَظِيمٍ. The scholars, the mufassirun, interpreted this to mean akhlaq, manners, conduct, behavior, and some of them interpreted this to mean deen, that your deen is a great deen. And all of this is applicable. Why is it all applicable? There is not that much difference between the Prophet's character and the deen, because the Prophet's character was the deen itself, because he was the model that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent. So he was the practical demonstration of this deen in a human model. As Aisha radiallahu anha said, كان خلقه القرآن. Hisham ibn Hakim asked Aisha, describe the khuluq of the Prophet ﷺ, the manners of the Prophet ﷺ to us. So Hisham ibn Hakim figured, this was a good time. I have al-Mu'mineen Aisha here, and I get to ask her a question, like a really complicated question, like that would require a lengthy answer. So I get to listen to al-Mu'mineen Aisha talking to me for a couple of hours. So she told them, كان خلقه القرآن. His akhlaq or his manners were the Quran, or the Quran was his manners. Or it means that his manners were the embodiment of the Quran, the demonstration of the Quran. So Hisham ibn Hakim said, I figured that I was done, that I should now walk away. So she did not need to explain the akhlaq of the Prophet ﷺ. She did not need to sit down and talk about the akhlaq of the Prophet ﷺ for a couple of hours. She gave him this quick, brief answer, but it's extremely comprehensive, because that's what it is. The Prophet ﷺ was the practical demonstration of the teachings of the Quran, and his deen was his akhlaq, and his akhlaq was his deen. And the deen is about akhlaq. When we say that the deen is about akhlaq, we do not mean by this that the deen is just being nice. That is the sort of the humanism or moral deism of our contemporary times. The deen is not just being about nice, but would akhlaq also mean that you should have the proper manners with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or is it just proper manners with the people, with the creations? I mean, proper manners with the creations should emanate from, should come from, should be a result of your proper manners with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. إِنَّمَا نُحِبُّ الْخَلْقَ لِأَنَّنَا نُحِبُّ خَالِقَهُم. We love the creations because we love their maker, we love their creator. So the proper manners with the people is but a result of your proper manners with Allah. But having no manners with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and being nice with the creations does not mean that you have proper akhlaq. Because most deserving of your proper akhlaq is the one who made you, the one who created you, the one who brought you into existence from Adam, from nothingness. He is most deserving of your akhlaq. So there is no conflict between saying that the deen is but about khuluq and saying that the deen is not just being nice, because being nice is part of it. It's not all of it. It is an important part of it, and it's like a litmus paper test. If you have piety and if you're conscious of God all the time, you will be kind, you will be benevolent, you will be merciful, you will be nice. But the deen is not just about niceness. The deen is not a self-development program that makes you, nice and a good, basically, citizen. That is part of it, but that is not all of it. When you go home and stand up in the middle of the night and pray 2 rak'ahs, that is good manners. That is exhibiting your good manners with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When you wake up for Salat al-Fajr, and that is exhibiting good manners with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You persevere in worship, persevere in serving Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the cause of Allah, that is having good manners with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the Deen is all about good manners, but this does not mean that it is limited to being nice with people. That is part of it, but most importantly, being good to your Lord who created you. That should come first. Then Imam al-Harawi rahimahullah said, الخلق ما يرجع إليه المتكلف من نعته. الخلق ما يرجع إليه المتكلف من نعته. Character is the true nature to which the pretentious one relapses. الخلق ما يرجع إليه المتكلف. المتكلف is the pretentious one. So ما يرجع إليه, that to which he relapses. So the pretentious one, someone who acts really humble, and then you just poke him, and then he explodes. And then he starts all the arrogance in the world comes out of him, all the prejudice, everything comes out because he was provoked, he was poked, he was triggered. So that poking, basically, or provoking him, got out his true nature, got out his or her true nature. He was acting, pretending to be humble and nice and kind and calm and forbearing and so on. But once he was triggered or once he was provoked, the true nature came out. So the Sheikh here says, Imam al-Harawi rahimahullah says, الخلق ما يرجع إليه المتكلف من نعته. Character is the true nature to which the pretentious one relapses. When does he relapse? When the mask falls off his face, he relapses. When does the mask fall off his face? When he spoke triggered in certain circumstances that would bring out his or her true nature. And Allah, you could see this, you could observe this with a lot of people, that they act a certain way, and they may act this way in front of you for years, and then all of a sudden they just explode, or they relapse into their true nature. That is why al-akhlaq, even when you talk about character in Latin, it means the impressed figure on the coin. It is the figure that they impress on the coin. So it is something that is genuine, that is innate, and that is established, that is firmly entrenched inside you. So it is your internal picture. So if your khalq is your external picture, your khalq, your creation, external image, external picture, your khuluq is your internal image. Your khuluq is the internal image. That is why Ibn Miskawayhi and al-Ghazali took it also from Ibn Miskawayhi, may Allah bestow mercy on both of them. They defined khuluq to be what? To be, and I'm using al-Ghazali's here, but they're comparable definitions, and al-Ghazali took it from Ibn Miskawayhi. They defined khuluq to be هيئة راسخة في النفس تصدر عنها الأفعال بسهولة ويسر من غير فكر ولا روية. So it is هيئة راسخة في النفس. It is a firmly entrenched form of the soul or the ego. It is basically a state of the self, the ego, an inner state of the self or the ego. تصدر عنها الأفعال, from which actions emanate. Akhlaq is the actions themselves are not the khuluq. The khuluq is the inner character from which the actions result. From which the actions result. So when we say that bukhl is, when you act stingy, that comes from shuh, which is possessiveness. That's the inner, quality that results in bukhl or stinginess. It is your shuh, your possessiveness, your excessive greed. So هيئة راسخة في النفس. It is the firmly entrenched inner state of the soul, of the self, of the ego. It's your internal image. تصدر عنها الأفعال, from which actions emanate or actions result. بسهولة ويسر, with facility and ease. من غير فكر ولا روية, without reflection or deliberation. Without reflection or deliberation. Things that you do spontaneously. So someone who is benevolent, when they see, a needy person, they spontaneously, they don't think about it when they rush to their help or to their rescue. They don't reflect, they don't deliberate, they don't think about it. It's just their natural reaction or inclination. Now, having said this, someone may say, does that mean that it is just something that was given to you? It is the internal image, and just like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created your external image, Allah also created your internal image, so it's a done deal. Like, you can't change your external image, and you should not be changing your external image. Allah does not want you to do that. Also, your internal image is not changeable. So are these akhlaq changeable? Can we change them? Can we refine our akhlaq? Oh, absolutely. Yes, Allah does not want us to change, وَلَأَمُرَنَّهُمْ فَلَيُغَيِّرُنَّ خَلْقَ اللَّهِ. The shaitan said to Allah, and I will command them to change your creation. But that is the physical creation. That is not basically the characteristics of the self, of the soul. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted you to refine your character, and Allah wanted you to change your character. And He says, إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُغَيِّرُ مَا بِقَوْمٍ حَتَّى يُغَيِّرُوا مَا بِأَنفُسِهِمْ. Allah does not change the state of the people until they change their own state. That is your inner character. Well, then, so akhlaq developed by, is it all about nature or nurture, or a combination of both? It's a combination of both. Is nature responsible for some of it? Yes, because when Ashaj ibn Abd al-Qais, when the Prophet ﷺ said to Ashaj Abd al-Qais, إِنَّ فِيكَ خَصْلَتَيْنِ يُحِبُّهُمَ اللَّهُ وَرَسُولُهُ الْحِلْمُ وَالْأَنَاءُ. You have two qualities that Allah and His Messenger love. Hilm and ana, forbearance, tolerance, and deliberation. You have those two beautiful qualities: clemency, forbearance, tolerance, and deliberation. So then Ashaj Abd al-Qais said to the Prophet ﷺ, those are two characters that I developed, or Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala inculcated in me. The Prophet ﷺ said to him, بَلْ جُبِلْتَ عَلَيْهِمَا. No, you have been created this way. Jibilla, which means natural inclination. So Allah jabalak, Allah created you to naturally have this hilm and ana, this clemency and forbearance and deliberation. We do see this. When your kids were born, the first day they were born, you started to figure out some of their character, from the first, if you're observant. You will start to figure out, start to sort of identify with the kids and figure out some of their characteristics. But that does not mean that we're done the time we are born. Because the Prophet ﷺ himself also said, إِنَّمَا الْعِلْمُ بِالتَّعَلُّمُ وَإِنَّمَا الْحِلْمُ بِالتَّحَلُّمُ وَمَنْ يَتَحَرَّى الْخَيْرَ يُعْطَهُ وَمَنْ يَتَّقِ الشَّرَّ يُوقَهُ. This is a beautiful hadith reported by al-Tabarani. And this hadith is about optimism and hope. It's about optimism and hope. The Prophet said, إِنَّمَا الْعِلْمُ بِالتَّعَلُّمُ. Being knowledgeable is by learning. وَإِنَّمَا الْحِلْمُ بِالتَّحَلُّمُ. And being forbearing is about practice. Tahallum, just like he said, ilm, ta'allum, hilm, tahallum. Ilm and hilm, there is sort of some similarity between the two words in form, but great this similarity in the meaning that is intended here. Because most people know that ilm is by learning, acquiring knowledge is by learning. All people agree to this, right or wrong? But most people, particularly when it comes to forbearance, they always tell you, your spouse must have told you this before, I have a short fuse. People tell you that it is just beyond my control. I am like this. It's beyond my control. So being forbearing, being halim, is something that is beyond my control. I snap often, you know. That is an excuse that people try to make for their failure at refining their character, for their deficiency and their failure and their shortcomings. But the Prophet ﷺ picked hilm in particular to put it in contrast with knowledge, to tell the people, as much as you admit that, you know, knowledge is acquired through learning, I am telling you, hilm is also acquired through practice. To be forbearing, tolerant, and tolerant is also acquired through practice. وَإِنَّمَا الْحِلْمُ بِالتَّحَلُّمِ وَمَنْ يَتَحَرَّ الْخَيْرَ يُعْطَى وَمَنْ يَتَّقِ الشَّرَّ يُوقَى. And whoever pursues that which is good will be granted what he pursued, and whoever avoids which is evil will be protected from it. So then we understand that al-khuluq is your internal image. We understand that part of it is by nature, part of it is by nurture, but we understand that however Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created you, He asked you to work on it and refine it and work on your weaknesses, improve them, and work on your strengths and work on your weaknesses and or your deficiencies and or your injustices, your inequities, and suppress them and work on your strengths and enhance them. And then we will come back maybe later. This is a very rich topic, and I'm trying to be as fast as I can here because I do not want to take from the time of the fiqh class. We usually do this. We have been unfair to the fiqh class, and I do not want to take from the time of the fiqh class. But this particular topic is a very rich topic, the topic of khuluq. So we'll come back to it and see, or maybe we'll just talk about it now. You know, the idea here is that sometimes you struggle to change your akhlaq, and some of your akhlaq may be too hard for you to change. And in this case, it's just like a QA, the QA tests. If there is a question that is, it's like the MCQ tests or exams. If there is a question that is too hard for you, skip it, unless this question will come back and haunt you. Or, you know, it is a series of questions, and if you don't answer the first question, you'll not be able to answer the second and the third. Then you want to spend a little bit of time figuring out that question. But if they are unrelated and this question is too hard for you, skip it, move on. Because the idea here is that we don't worship any of these manazil, we don't worship any of these stations. We worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and whatever we need to do, you know, we should live our lives to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to serve the cause of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Imam al-Qayyim and Imam Taymiyyah were sitting together, and look at how look at what they were usually talking about. So they were sitting together and they were talking about this issue. You know, if there is a particular character that you cannot overcome, what should you do? So Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah was his teacher. So Ibn Qayyim rahimahullah asked him, what do you think? And Ibn Taymiyyah said to him, sometimes this nafs is like a dumpster. The more you search through it, the more filth will come out. So sometimes what you need to do is to build a bridge over this dumpster and cross over it. And stop searching for more filth, because the more you search through your soul for filth and deficiencies, the more you will discover, and you will get too busy fighting your own deficiencies and fighting your own problems. So what you need to do is, if you can, build a bridge over it and cross over it, do that. So Ibn Qayyim said to him, I heard some of the mashayikh say that those deficiencies and those diseases are like the snakes and the scorpions on your path or in your path. And if you get distracted fighting them all off, they will keep you, they will interrupt your journey, they'll keep you from reaching your destination. Can you imagine you're walking a certain path through the desert, trying to reach your destination, and then and there are snakes and scorpions in your path. You spend your time killing each one of them off so that you clear your path so that you could get to your destination. You will be wasting a lot of time. Sometimes what you need to do, unless this snake or scorpion can catch up with you later and haunt you and cause you irreparable harm, then you need to take care of this snake or scorpion promptly. But if this snake is not going to be able to catch up with you, just move on. Move on. Don't get distracted. Because ultimately, the pleasure of Allah is what you're seeking, not the refinement of your ego. You're refining your ego for the pleasure of Allah. But if the refinement of your ego will come at the expense of displeasing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you need to move on. Because the pleasure of Allah should be your ultimate goal, not the refinement of your ego. Take another example. So Ibn Qayyim rahimahullah also mentions this example. The example of a town, people in a particular town, a beautiful town, there is like a river that floods every year, and it destroys that town or their place of residence and so on. Some of them said, we must build a dam. And they build the dam, and every time they build the dam, the river overcomes the dam. So some of them said, we must go figure out where this river comes from and block it at the manba, or the spring, or where the source, wherever it is coming from. Stop it from the beginning of its course. And those people went and did not come back because the river the source was too far away for them to be able to find the source, and it's possible also that they got to the source but they were not able to stop it. But some people said, well, forget about it. Just live, it floods once a year. We still have 9 months. We still have 10 months. Just live your life and forget about it. And whenever it comes, we'll figure it out when it happens. And those people, the river flooded over their city or town and destroyed the residences and caused a lot of harm to them. But he says the best people are the people who said, well, let us try to rechannel some of the water so that when the river floods, it does not cause much destruction, and we can use some of this water for good purposes. So it's not like they're sort of changing the course of the entire river, but they're trying to rechannel some of the water into smaller streams coming off of the rivers on both sides. And then they take this water and use it to irrigate some of their land and so on. And so when the river floods, whatever reaches their town will not be overwhelming and will not be destructive. And they will use some of the water for good purposes. And Ibn al-Qayyim posits that the people who did this are the most intelligent people, because sometimes the force of nature may be too hard to overcome. The force of nature inside you may be too hard to overcome, so you want to rechannel it. Abu Bakr, lived his life, his entire life, radiallahu anhu, having certain characters that were not shared by Umar, and the same applies to Umar. You know, he had certain characters that were not shared by Abu Bakr. Each one of them had their own. When you hear about Abu Bakr and Umar, and these are the best of the best after the Prophet ﷺ, these are two different people that have two different sets of characteristics, right or wrong. They were able to rechannel them, to use them for the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala without obliterating their internal image. Umar was still Umar to the day he died. And Abu Bakr was still Abu Bakr till the day he died, radiallahu anhuma. So sometimes it may be that you want to just rechannel some of this energy for a good cause, for the cause of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and not completely stop the flow of the river, or block these natural forces. Okay. Is this clear? Okay, I'm done. Because this is extremely important, because ultimately the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is what you're looking for. And if we try to refine our intention, for instance, if I try to make sure that I am sitting here talking to you for the sake of Allah alone, I would have probably not come today or last week, or I would just stop, because it may be completely impossible to ascertain that your niyyah is for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What you can do is you can try as much as you can to say the truth and to not cater to the audience, and to not basically change their narrative or try to please someone at the expense of displeasing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But then to ascertain that your intention is pure and it is all for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala may not be possible. And if you chase after that complete purity of intention, if you want to ascertain complete purity of intention before any action, you may just freeze. You may just stop. But you continue to do what is good and you continue to purify your intention to the best of your ability. But don't stop something good that you're doing because you have not ascertained the purity of your intention, because it may be beyond you. Didn't Ali say, radiallahu anhu, if I know that Allah will accept one sajda from me, I would want to meet him? Didn't Imam Ahmad say, when he was asked, كل حديث كتبته كان لله, every hadith that you narrated was for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he said, ما كان لله فهو عزيز. Whatever is complete purely for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is aziz, which means mighty. It means very rare to come by. It's very rare to accomplish that complete purity of intention. So the bottom line is we are working to refine the character, but the refinement of the character is not the ultimate goal. The pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the ultimate goal. If you're doing something good, don't stop. Don't stop it. Continue to do it, and continue to simultaneously work on your intention and work on your character, and continue to improve your character. But don't get distracted. Your journey, the ultimate destination is the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not a particular achievement that is self-serving. Then Imam al-Harawi said, واجتمعت كلمة الناطقين في هذا العلم أن التصوف هو الخلق وجميع الكلام فيه يدور على قطب واحد وهو بذل المعروف وكف الأذى. واجتمعت كلمة الناطقين في هذا العلم أن التصوف هو الخلق The theorists of this knowledge, which is the knowledge of tasawwuf, have agreed that tasawwuf is all about moral character. That tasawwuf is all about moral character. And al-Kattani rahimahullah, Abu Bakr al-Kattani rahimahullah, said التصوف هو الخلق فمن زاد عليك في الخلق زاد عليك في التصوف. Tasawwuf is all about khuluq, it's all about character. Whoever outdoes you in character outdoes you in tasawwuf. So that is what tasawwuf is all about. And we're talking about the Sunni tasawwuf, we're talking about the Shara'i tasawwuf, we're talking about the good tasawwuf here. But the word tasawwuf itself, we will not be able to basically do away with it. And some people, no one denies the importance of tazkiyah, purification of the soul, the importance of refinement of the character, the importance of spirituality and morality in Islam. They are inseparable from Islam. Spirituality and morality are inseparable from Islam. But some people, they think, because in many Sufi paths, or that many deviations appeared in Sufi tariqas and so on and so forth. Some people say, well, tasawwuf is not a word, or Sufism is not a word that the Prophet ﷺ coined himself, or his Sahaba, or even the Tabi'een, some people may say, although it may have started to appear during the time of the Tabi'een. So let's do away with it so that the negative connotations and the negative implications of the word and the negative practices of some Sufis are not being promoted. But that it will not be possible. It will not be possible because it has become an integral part of our heritage, our legacy, and it is not possible to do away with the word because of its sort of central place in our turath. So then what we would do is to fight for pure, proper, good Sunni, Shara'i tasawwuf. And that's it. And to say that whenever you find this or that deviation, this deviation does not belong to the pure path of tasawwuf. This is not the tasawwuf of al-Junayd, of al-Jilani, of Bishr al-Hafi, of Ma'ruf al-Karhi, of Saray al-Saqati, of Abu Hashim al-Kufi. This is not the tasawwuf of Rabi'a al-Adawiyya. This is not the pure tasawwuf. This is a deviant form of tasawwuf. And that would be the fight. The fight is not against tasawwuf. The fight is for it. It's to save it from, deviant doctrines and practices that may have tainted the image of tasawwuf. So that's clear, right? Then the Sheikh said, وجميع الكلام فيه يدور على قطب واحد وهو بذل المعروف وكف الأذى. And all of it revolves around one axis, central pole. All of the topics of tasawwuf revolve around one central theme. بذل المعروف وكف الأذى. Extending kindness and refraining from harm. To extend kindness, and to refrain from harm. To withhold yourself from causing harm and to extend kindness. وإنما يدرك إمكان ذلك في ثلاثة أشياء في العلم والجود والصبر. This may be attained by three qualities: knowledge, benevolence, and patience. وإنما يدرك إمكان ذلك في ثلاثة أشياء في العلم والجود والصبر. The Sheikh said that these two qualities, بذل المعروف وكف الأذى, to extend kindness and refrain from harm. In order for you to be able to achieve this, and to be a person that is always extending kindness and refraining from harm, you need three qualities: ilm, jud, and sabr. Ilm is knowledge, awareness. Jud is what? Benevolence. You could say that jud is benevolence. It's usually translated as generosity. So you could say jud is benevolence. Sabr is patience. So ilm will basically make you aware of what is right and what is wrong. You need to be aware of this, right? Because keep in mind that this is a huge issue. Assigning moral value to human action is a huge issue. This has been what philosophers deliberated over for centuries, for thousands of years. How do you assign moral value to human action? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala helped us, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala showed us the way, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, yes, Allah did not say that our human intellect will have no role. Human intellect does have a role. And you should never listen to someone who tells you, give up your intellect, or follow me without, like a dead body in the hands of the washer. You should never give up your intellect, because that is that's Allah's gift to you, to use it to recognize Him. Allah gave you this intellect to be able to reach Him. So how could you give it up? If this is Allah's gift, if this is the tool that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave you to reach Him. So, but at the same time, Allah said that your intellect is not complete, and that you need guidance, and you need tawfiq, and you need divine assistance to be able to tell apart good from evil, right from wrong. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent the revelation for this purpose, to be able to assign moral value to different human actions and tell you what is right and what is wrong in a detailed manner, to boost your fitra, which is your intuition. Allah is telling you your intuition is important to use. Use your fitra, your natural intuition. Stafti qalbak, consult your heart, but use it in light of the guidance that I have sent to you through my messengers. So ilm is important. The light of knowledge is important to dispel the darkness of ignorance. And Jud and Sabr. Jud is benevolence and Sabr is patience. Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah said that there are 4 origins of all good character, of all good manners. 4 origins. Those are Sabr, Shaja'a, Iffa, Adl. So Sabr is Sabr. Endurance, patience, perseverance, Sabr. Shaja'a is courage. Iffa, Adl is justice. Iffa is what? Usually translated as abstention or abstinence or continence or chastity. Chastity, because Iffa usually is used within that context, but that is not what Iffa is about. That is part of what Iffa is about. Chastity is part of what Iffa is about. But Iffa is more like abstention or continence, moral continence. Moral continence. It is basically to be able to withhold yourself from that which is demeaning, unbefitting, low, etc. But it is not the ability to withhold yourself. That would be sabr, right? Self-restraint, sabr. But it is the aversion to that which is unbefitting. So that is what Iffa is about. It is the aversion. It's not that you're trying to hold yourself. Because Iffa is not only Iffa from sexual lust, from lust in that sense. It is also Iffa, there is dubious wealth that you inherited, for instance. Iffa is to just give it up or trade yourself of it. Or money that you acquired in some way, or money that you may be able to acquire. But you say to yourself, no, this is dubious, this is not wholesome, this is not pure. So to stay away from it is Iffa. But Iffa is not the ability to restrain yourself from taking that money. Iffa is the aversion that you have inside you to that money. You have the aversion to this money. So Iffa is basically when you see, like an example that may be too dramatic. But like when you see the wife of your neighbor, for instance, or the wife of your friend, and then the shaitan whispers in your heart or your mind, to look again because he or she, the spouse, looks good. Iffa is that once you remember that this is the wife of your neighbor, this is the wife of your friend, or once you remember that this is not your halal spouse, this is not your spouse. Once you remember this, you develop aversion, not just restraint, aversion, disgust, sort of aversion. Just like the money. You see how much we love money? But the $2,000 that you're not really quite sure whether they belong to you or not, or you're not quite sure if I write this on my tax return, or this is like a dubious statement. It's not really a lie, because a lie would be a lie, but it's a dubious statement, and I'm not really sure. Should I do this or should I not? If aversion is to feel aversion to that money that you may get through, although you love the money, although lust is an integral part of us. But then when the iffa comes in, it will create that aversion. And it will not be a matter of self-restraint, but a matter of aversion, a matter of disgust. You're disgusted with yourself, you're disgusted with the shaitan who whispered something in your mind that is inappropriate, and then this will be immediate. Like Yusuf alayhi salam, وَلَقَدْ هَمَّتْ بِهِ وَهَمَّ بِهَا لَوْلَا أَن رَأَى بُرْهَانَ رَبِّهِ. So he was about to, had he not seen the burhan of his Lord, a sign from his Lord, he would have almost done it. But he saw that sign from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, from his Lord. So this is iffa. Anyway, so iffa is this aversion to that which is low, that which is unbefitting. Adl is justice. Sabr is self-restraint. Shaja'a is courage. If you think about it, and we don't have time to reflect on each one of them, you will find that from these, all good characteristics emanate. They result from these four original characteristics, and they emanate from them. And you mix, it's about mixing. The same applies to the origins of bad characters. You also mix them in different measures, and then different bad characters result from them. So what are the four origins of bad character? Allah mentioned two of them in Surah Al-Ahzab. إِنَّا عَرَضْنَا الْأَمَانَةَ عَلَى السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ وَالْجِبَالِ فَأَبَيْنَ أَن يَحْمِلْنَهَا وَأَشْفَقْنَ مِنْهَا وَحَمَلَهَا الْإِنسَانُ إِنَّهُ كَانَ ظَلُومًا جَهُولًا. We have offered the trust to the heavens and the earth and the mountains, and they refuse to accept it. They refuse to carry the trust of choice. Choice is what we are about. That the ability to make autonomous decisions. Even Immanuel Kant, one of the biggest parts of his theory is autonomy versus heteronomy. Are you making autonomous or heteronomous decisions? Autonomy means the ability to make a decision that is not subject to your natural inclinations, to be freed from your natural inclinations. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the distinction of humanity, the glory of humanity, comes from that point when Allah breathed into us from His soul. And we're not saying that we're part of the divine, but we're saying that there is something different about us, something different about humanity. This breathing into us, Allah breathing into us from His soul, that is where all the complexity of free choice and determinism comes from. We are free agents to a great extent. Yes, we are still controlled by the destiny and the qadr, but we are free agents to a great extent, and this all comes from that moment. We are not like animals. We don't only respond to our inclinations. We do have the ability to control our inclinations and to rise over our inclinations and to make autonomous decisions. So we accepted that trust. The Samawat and Ard and Jibal, they refused to have free choice. They wanted to be subdued. All the creations wanted to be subdued. They did not want to have any free choice. They wanted to be just to have no choice. We accepted the choice. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, إِنَّهُ كَانَ ظَلُومًا جَهُولًا. Certainly he was a wrongdoer and ignorant. A man was like a wrongdoer and ignorant. You could say, well, but what Allah wanted us to accept it. At the end of the day, Allah meant for us to accept it, and Allah wanted us to accept it. And certain human beings will end up, in the garden, in paradise, for eternity, in Jannah, for eternity, because we accepted it, because we accepted free choice. So here, when we say إِنَّهُ كَانَ ظَلُومًا جَهُولًا, it does not mean that every man. It means that these characteristics are part and parcel of human creation. There is some tendency towards dhulm and some tendency towards jahl, injustice and ignorance. But many human beings will overcome them and will rise over these inequities in them and will overcome them. And that is how they will be deserving of, eternity in paradise, of salvation and eternity in paradise. So dhulm and jahl are two characteristics of man that from which a lot of evil originates. But then the other two are characteristics that are different from dhulm and jahl in some extent, because dhulm and jahl are never good. Could you imagine good dhulm? Could you imagine good jahl, good ignorance? They're never good. They say ignorance is bliss, but that's not really true. But jahl is never good. Dhulm is never good. There are two others that are considered to be of the four original origins or sources of evil character. Shahwa and ghadab. Shahwa and ghadab. Shahwa is lust and ghadab is what? Shahwa is lust, but here it means desire in general, or cravings. Passion. Let's say shahwa is passion. Could be that sometimes it's all of this. It depends on the context. Words do not have inherent meanings until you put them in a certain context, and then they would have, their meaning would be obvious. So the shahwa could be lust, could be cravings, could be passion, could be desire. Here, let's say passion in this context. And then ghadab. Ghadab is usually translated as anger. But here, we may say that ghadab means defensiveness. So could you imagine good ghadab? Yes, absolutely. The Prophet ﷺ used to get angry for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When the bounds of Allah are violated, he would get angry. He would not get angry for himself, but he would get angry for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the person who does not get angry for Allah when the bounds of Allah are violated is just insensitive and not conscious of his Lord. So could you imagine good lust? Yeah. Yes, you could imagine good lust. If it is halal, it is good. So then shahwa ما يجلب المرء لنفسه به المنافع والغضب ما يدفع المرء به عن نفسه المضار. So if you don't have shahwa and ghadab, if you don't have cravings, you will not be eating food. You will not be looking after your own interests, because if you don't have passion, you don't have cravings, you don't have desire. It's just like you are a lifeless person. And if you don't have ghadab, if you don't have this defensiveness, you will not defend yourself, you will not protect yourself, you will not, avert harm. So, shahwa and ghadab are not like zulm and jahl. Zulm, injustice or iniquity, jahl, ignorance, shahwa, passion, ghadab, anger or defensiveness are all the four origins of evil character. Two of them are absolutely bad all the time, and two of them may or may not be bad. Shahwa and ghadab are the two that may or may not be bad. We can't do justice to this topic in one session. So maybe we stop here, and then we talk about the three levels. Because if I try to squeeze in the three levels in the next 7 minutes, that would be unfair, right? Yeah. So I think we just stop here and come back to the rest of this next time, inshallah. Next time we'll talk about the three different levels. The first level is about having the proper manners with the people, with the creations. Second level is about having proper manners with the Creator. Third level, according to Imam al-Harawi, usually is the level of self-dissolution, self-annihilation, or fana. قل قولي هذا استغفر الله لي ولكم سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك اشهد ان لا اله الا انت استغفرك واتوب اليك.